question. But this first question, you do all have to answer. Can you just introduce yourselves, who you are, tell us a little bit about your family, yeah, like your 30-second elevator story.
Well, I'm Julie Penton. I'm married to Matt Penton. We've been married 19 years this November 22nd, actually. Let's see, we moved to North Carolina from California in 2013. We have 2 boys, Christopher, who's 15, and Drake, who will be 13 December 1st. Let's see, I homeschool them, and this is our 8th year of homeschooling. I did MOPS in California. I was actually a coordinator for MOPS in California. And I did that all through our preschool years, and that was really a huge part of why I wanted to be part of Lily Moms here. That was really a crucial part of my surviving the preschool years. MOPS was really a big part of me finding friendships during the preschool years. I am still friends with the vast majority. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Ding ding.
Where's the bell?
So I'm Penny Keithley, married to Ken Keithley, who is a professor at Southeastern. We have been married 42 years this May, and I have 2 children, adult children, of course. Matthew, who's a member of this church, and Allison, who just moved in with me for the 4th or 5th or 100th time for a while. They're looking to buy a home. I have 4 grandchildren by Matt that I've enjoyed doing life with. I'm originally born and raised in Missouri, southeast Missouri, so I'm technically at Ozark Hillbilly. Let me see, I've been a member of North Wake for a lot, 7-8 years, and almost as long in Lily Moms. Kelly Bradford asked me to join a long time back, and I've enjoyed that. What else did you say?
Okay. She moved away, right? Kelly Craig? Yeah, I thought she moved away. Kelly Craig. I'm originally from Gastonia, North Carolina, which is west of Charlotte, but we've lived here for 31 years, and we've been at North Wake the same amount of time. My husband was home staff until Sunday, kind of was officially his last day for 29 years, and I have 4 children. You saw Natalie last week with that picture that was supposed to look like. So 18, and then Emma is 22, Ben is 26, and Hannah is 32. And we homeschooled and been in school, so we've done a lot of things. And
Hi, I'm Shalane Williams, and I am married to Wayne Williams. We've been here at North Wake for a year and a half. Originally born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia. Left British Columbia at 93, moved down to the Rio Grande Valley, close to Mexico. Lived there for 27 years. We moved here a year and a half ago. I have 2 adult children. Nate and his wife Morgan, and their 4 kids who go here to North Wake, and that's one of the main reasons why we moved here. And Dana, our daughter, has 3 children, a husband, and they live up in Steinbach, Manitoba, Canada. And I'm not a speaker, by the way. I'm just to answer the questions person.
Hey, my name is Cora Henhill. I've been married to Josh for 16 years. We grew up in this area. We went to Wake Forest High School together, and dated through college and got married. I have 2 kids. My daughter's 13 and she's in middle school, and my son is 10 and he's in 5th grade. And let's see, we have a dog and a hamster named Mr. Cheese. And we're about to acquire some rats because that's what my teenage daughter wants, and we're just gonna go for it.
Sorry about the rat.
It's okay.
My name's Kay Slott, and I've been married 37 years. I have 2 adult daughters. I have 2 grandsons, and I'm also from Gastonia, North Carolina. And
We're working on freeing you up a little bit. That's all right. Okay, that's it.
I don't think that I said, I guess I'm the oldest here.
I'm 64.
Yes, I'm 66. Another reason I know that is although I was married a baby, I was 12. I've been married 48 years, so if you said 42, I was old.
I can do the math.
Can you just tell us what it looked like when your kids were really little? Were you working, schooling? What did that look like?
I stopped working when I was pregnant with Christopher, because I was a high-risk pregnancy, technically. I had lupus, and everyone was so afraid for me. So they asked me to stop working. I actually had a really easy pregnancy with Christopher, so, but that's when I stopped working, and I did want to be a stay-at-home mom, so it was good timing. I was super bored while I was pregnant, though. I was very used to being active and having lots of things to do. So I nested like crazy. I don't think Matt was ready for that. I was like a whirling dervish in that little 500 square foot apartment of ours. I did everything I could think of to that place. And then I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was actually a really rough transition for me. I went from working full-time to being around a lot of people. I was a bookstore manager for Barnes & Noble and other bookstore companies for more than 10 years, and I was used to being around lots of people, working with lots of people, managing lots of people, and lots of the world. And then I was just around a baby, and that was really hard for me. So that's when I really needed community.
So my husband and I were, he was pastoring a church when I had my first child. I was not anxious to have kids, so we put it off for 5 or 6 years before Matt was born. And I was working, at the time I've always done administrative work, and I quit because I thought that was what I was, no I didn't. I worked like the first 6 months and found somebody who could watch him, but it just wasn't working because I was trying to nurse. And so I quit too, and stayed home until they both went to school. So yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom, and but because I had a lot of people around me. What I missed saying a while ago was moms. There was no such thing as moms that I knew of in Southeast Missouri in the 80s. Yeah, I never had that, but I did have lots of friends that helped.
Let's see, we had our first child, I think 2.5 years after we had been married. And leading up to that, I had kind of just been working part-time, like doing some long-term sub fill-ins and just different things, so I wasn't working full-time. I stayed at home until we moved here, and then I still was a stay-at-home mom. I would hostess sometimes at, trying to think now, they closed it, the Italian place, La Foresta. I would hostess there some, and I had a piano student here and there, but Rob would watch the kids when I wasn't home. So, and I love that. I can be by myself at home for a while, and don't have to have lots of people. I'm good with that. So, it was pretty great. I enjoyed that time with my kids, and so.
Well, it's ancient history, so I'm going back 46 years to Whitehorse, Yukon, where my son Nathan was born. And he was born on January 4th, 1976, a year after Wayne and I were married. I was only 20 years old, and did I say it was 35 below? 35 below zero. Anyway, I had been working as a secretary for workmen's compensation, and I stopped working. And then we moved out of Whitehorse and we were down in Smithers, British Columbia. And Dana Louise was born 2.5 years later. And we moved back up to Whitehorse. And there was no such thing as really moms, or I didn't have any moms up there with me. I was pretty much alone with my little children with Wayne working. And I went back to work when they was about 4 or 5, and then I worked most of their growing up years. So anyway, okay.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was working at Starbucks. And that was a very on your feet job, but it was great because I had some community there in my work, and even customers would come with baby gifts and things. And then shortly after Clara was born, I decided to stay home, and that was great, really good transition, but it was very isolating, and I didn't expect that. And so MOPS was really a great way for me to just get out of myself, out of my house, and be around other people going through the same thing. So that was really important for me. And I think as my kids grew up, I would find little jobs to do. Like I taught dance for a while to little pre-dance to babies, or ballet, or I toured with a little children's theater here and there. So I never worked full time when my kids were at home, but found little things to do along the way. And we ended up doing preschool as kind of homeschool. I didn't follow a curriculum or anything, but just was intentional and took the kids along with me, and we ended up enjoying that. I think it was kind of a choice made by cost. It's like we got married young, and so we were like, let's do homeschool preschool, and it ended up being wonderful. I'm really glad that I had those years to just kind of walk through life with them.
When I got pregnant with my first child, I was a nurse, and so I worked until she was born, and then I stayed at home for 6 years while my kids were toddlers and preschoolers. And when they went to school, I worked part-time as a nurse. I worked part-time teaching piano and part-time teaching kinder music. But during the preschool years, when I was at home, I was really involved with the church, so I had friends with kids my own age, so we were always in each other's houses and doing stuff together. So.
What are things you wish you did more of or less of when your kids were really little?
Okay, I've really thought about this. I think one of the things I would do less of, not so much in the preschool years, but the older, once they went to school, as my kids were involved in a lot of stuff, and I really wanted them to be, and I think they probably were in too much stuff. Even though I've talked to them since then, and they said, we don't feel like we were in too much stuff, we like doing it. I think it was a little bit too much. And what?
Is there anything more of? You don't have to answer.
Is the next question about what we've heard, advice, and not advice? Okay, I'll skip this one. I'll save it for the next one. You can do that.
So I did think about this question a lot, because it's one of the main reasons why I wanted to help out here at Really Moms, and that is, I wasn't a believer when my kids were little. I accepted the Lord in 1979, so that means that Nate was around 4 or 5 years old. But anyways, as a young mom, not having any help with a Lily's mom or even moms or family because I lived so far away, I was so focused on everything being perfect, like this is what a mom is supposed to do. I wasn't raised in a nurturing home, and so that's what I would want to do, is I want to encourage you all to love your little ones, nurture, and if you do that too much nurturing, there's no such thing as too much nurturing, and that's, I think, what my 2 kids that I missed out doing. They wouldn't tell you that. They would say, oh, mom's great, mom's fine, but I was so focused on being a mom and, feeding them right, making sure they're getting rest and all of those practical things that I didn't spend as much time. And then I did go back to work when Nate was around 5, and then I went into nursing, and I ended up working all their growing up years full-time as a nurse. But I did put, before the Lord, I said, my husband and my children come before my career. So that always was, so, and the kids knew that. But the nurturing part I missed out on, so I just encourage you, love them. It passes so, so quickly.
You just say quickly that I do not regret quitting work when I needed to and staying home, even though, being in ministry, there's really not any being off ministry. So it was a busy time anyway, and so I don't regret that. I think if I were to say what could I have done more of is just as kind of as Cheyenne was saying, is lightened up a little bit on myself and because there were so many demands and requirements on everything, and I felt like I needed to do all of them. And so I would have focused more and nurtured more, like she said, just enjoyed that time, which I tried to do, but
You have done
I think with Christopher, my oldest son, I was very focused on, he was a very kind of happy, compliant, scheduled baby / young child. My second son was born when he was 2. And those first 2 years were very like, let's go get your 3-month pictures done. Let's go get your 6-month pictures done. Let's go get your year pictures done. I was very like in this rhythm of like, I had this ideal. I wasn't even aware of it, but I was kind of like trying to meet this ideal in my mind of what mothering looked like. I don't even know where I got it from, honestly. But I was like checking these boxes, and then Drake was born, and he was this wild thing. This wild thing. And I loved him immediately, just like I loved Christopher, but he was a completely different child and would not comply with my plan. I remember the first time I tried to do the picture thing, and I sweat, breast milk went everywhere. I think I peed my pants a little bit. And after that, I cried so much, and I remember Matt saying, I don't think we need to do these pictures anymore. And I was just like, I didn't want to let go of the pictures. I was just like, but it's baby book. And I was just like, he's not going to have a baby book. And I think, actually, I know what term I'm realizing right now, because my younger brother, never had a real baby book. And I was like, that's never going to happen with my kids. Both kids, if I have 2 kids, they'll all have baby books. I was just like, decided that. And here I was, like, my second child wasn't going to have a baby book because he wouldn't comply. And I had to let it go, Now, my youngest son is autistic. And so this is, like, I didn't know then when he was a newborn that he was autistic. But God was training me in those moments, those very early moments, that I was going to have to let things go. So I would tell you, as you have these little babies, everyone's different. Every baby's different. And you are going to have to let things go. Like your idea of who your child is, it's not up to you. God designs your child. So you have to let things go. Yeah.
All right, what is some of the best and or worst advice that you've gotten?
I had a wonderful mentor mom in California. She was a mentor mom in our MOPS group. She was a wonderful Bible study leader in our church. I loved her. Her name's Judy Grubauer. And I remember her saying to me, Julie, at somebody else's baby shower, we were talking about babies and little ones, and she said, just let your yes be yes and your no be no. And I thought that was such good advice, and I was very confused by it at first, and I just let it kind of, I chewed on that one for a long time, and Christopher was young, and then I would start applying those words, and I thought they were so great. It was basically just about being truthful with your children, don't withdraw what you say, don't change what you say in the midst of what you're doing, just be honest with your kids. If you're struggling with them and y'all are having a hard time, let them know. It's okay to tell them, hey, we're having a hard time right now, and tell them why. But if you're sticking with a plan, of discipline, or, you know, whatever it is you're doing, explain to them why, and let your yeses be yes, and your no's be no, and it's okay to do that. I was such great advice, and I still use it today with my teenagers.
I don't remember where this came from, but I'm sure you've all heard this. Kind of only applies if you have one child, I guess. After two, it doesn't work as well. But it's to rest when your baby's resting or when your toddler's resting. And if you have more than one and they both go down, and I know some of that's a personality thing if you feel like you have to do laundry and get everything done, but that was great for me. And so when I had my first newborn, I would rest when she rested, but a lot of that was putting her on my bed. She wasn't moving, so she wouldn't fall off. And I just lay down with her, and I'm sure all of you have done this where you just watch them, just look at them, and you know, and I would sleep when she would sleep, but just, that was good for me to feel rested and restored. It's just, if I didn't sleep, I would still lay down and rest when my kids were resting or napping.
In the past, because they really didn't have anybody, but it wasn't, because we lived, again, thousands of miles away from parents and stuff, so, yeah.
And I remember someone telling me, probably when I was in the middle of trying to chase my daughter, because I had two runners, and they just said, enjoy these moments because they don't last long. Kind of similar to what you were saying earlier. And I think I really took that to heart. I shared it with another one of my mom friends at the time, and she goes, someone told you that? Nobody's telling me that. And I was like thinking how interesting. But I just want to encourage you to enjoy it. One of my favorite memories, and I have a picture of it, is when my daughter, she was into an ancient Egypt mummy phase. She was a very she's just unique in her own lovely way. And so she came in and she was like, Mom, can you make me a mummy? And she had paper towels. And it was great because I had that in my brain, and I was like, yeah. And so her and my son, you can see in the picture there's unfolded clothes on the couch behind them, but we're taping her, and we made her a full mummy, and then we built a little fort that looked like a pyramid for her, and then she laid down. But that was such a great thing because I could have easily said, no, I've got those clothes on the couch. That's gonna make a mess. It's gonna be paper everywhere. I'm gonna have to clean it up after. But I'm so glad I took the time to stop and do that because it's created this fun memory, and I know that my kids will remember it. And then on the flip side of that, I don't know that this is necessarily bad advice, but I would just have liked a different voice when I was a mom. I think I would have loved to hear from somebody that spanking isn't the only way to discipline your kid. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, and I know I was spanked as a kid. It's fine. It works a lot for moms. It didn't work for my daughter at all. She's totally different than me in personality. And I just wish that someone would have said, oh yeah, it's not that you don't love your kid if you don't spank them. There are other ways to do it. So I just want to encourage you to, as you go through this journey, to listen to a lot of the different voices and realize that your kid is different and something might be totally different that works for your kid than another kid.
It's fine. I'm just trying to think of how to say this. I got some really bad advice. I got some bad advice. One thing I was told was, if your child doesn't like what you cook for dinner, they don't want to eat it, you have to make them something separate. I wouldn't do that. I mean, that's ridiculous. I didn't do it. And I was told that your child has to be the very best, and that's absolutely not true. I was told that the second child should submit to the older child. Basically your kids are who they are. God has created them. He's made them who they are, and given them different personalities and different strengths. And just go with that. And just because somebody gives you advice, you don't have to listen to it, no matter who they are.
What are some things that you feel you did really well as a mom?
I think I did fun stuff and crafts really well. I really let my kids be messy and paint when they were really young, and yeah.
Yeah, when I had my second, he was so much easier than my first. And so when he would go take a nap, I couldn't really sleep anymore because of my daughter. But then we would try to have our own special time. Like, okay, we're going to make cookies during this time, or we're going to finger paint, something we can't do. And then I think as my kids get older, and now, hence the rats, showing an interest in the things that your kids are interested in. When they first, like, Minecraft came out, I was, like, reading books about it. How do I teach my kids how to play this? Just showing, and you can start that young, just showing an interest in the things that they're interested in, because it's great, common things for you to talk about and share.
Well, it's interesting. My first thought that came to my head, the best thing that I did was I prayed that God would help me to be the mom that I needed to be, because I was raised in a dysfunctional family and didn't know what a mom should look like, a good mom should look like, never mind a Christian mom. And so I committed to pray, and I prayed every day. And God answers prayer, because my kids turned out okay.
One thing, and I don't know that I would have thought about it, except I've had friends tell me this when I'm like, oh, my house is so messy, and she said, yeah, but you spend time with your kids all the time. So I was in the floor, no cell phones, nothing to distract me, because we didn't really even have a television. Somebody felt bad because we didn't have a television and gave us one. And we had chosen not to have a television, but we still didn't do cable, so the TV wasn't on. I mean, we had old videos, but I didn't have distractions, kind of like you do. At least I think they're distractions. Y'all grown up with them, so maybe they're not distracting to you. But I was just in the floor with my children, just playing all the time. I mean, I don't mean, reading a book, but I was engaged with them really almost all the time when they're all real little. Like getting meals ready, that's probably different. But I just did. They didn't have a lot of alone time, which I don't mean that you need to play with them constantly, but they had naps or just rest times. But I just enjoyed that. Just was with them, and I mean, you have to do that when they're toddlers anyway, because they'll go get into something. But and as they got older, I have 4, so I feel like I parented a little differently with my last 2 than I did with my first 2, because you're trying to do everything right, and you have to, a lot of things that you guys have said, you hear things about, discipline or, scheduling, and depending on your personality, you will try some of those things because they sound like, what good parenting would be, or being a good mom. And you do have to, I finally found out I can't violate my conscience either, because it makes me feel terrible. So I had friends that were like, oh, well, yeah, I'm not picking that baby up. They will eat on my schedule, and they will nap on my schedule, where I didn't really do that. And that was great for her, because that worked with her personality. So you really do have to go with your personality, how your child is, because, if you feel bad all the time because you're doing certain things, you're violating just some intuitive stuff, I think. But, and this, this will be for later, but my last 2, as they got older, well, even with my second, I kind of had this epiphany from listening to a podcast. Because at heart, I'm kind of a perfectionist, which that is way better than it used to be. So, I think in real black and white, and life is not black and white. It's a lot of gray, and I don't like gray. But I was, pretty strict with my first 2 kids, like things should be like this. And then I realized later with my last 2, and here's kind of an example. I wrote my son's teacher one time because he had homework he didn't finish, and it wasn't because he didn't want to, it was late, and I just finally told her there were several things with test and homework, and I just said my relationship with my child is more important than me forcing him to stay up and finish this, and I'm not gonna do that, say this is incomplete. It's not because he didn't wanna do it, he just kinda did all he could. And because you can get to where you're pressuring and fussing once they start school about things, and so that just kind of changed the way I looked at things. I thought, my relationship with him is way more important than certain things, pressing for certain things, within limits, you still have boundaries, but.
Question was what you did right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was kind of a reluctant mom, I was insecure about being able to measure up to everybody's expectations of pastor's wife Penny with children who'd never worked even in the nursery because I didn't care about. So the part I love best about raising kids is the babies, which is why I'm holding every one of your babies, because I love them. If I work in the nursery, I work with the babies. But what I did right, I love to read. My husband and I both love to read, so we read a lot to our children every day. And both of our kids currently are readers, and I think that's what got them through school, because I'm not very good at all the other things, but we did read. And I also felt Shalon's, her comment, because early on somewhere, of course we're in church every day of every week as a pastor's family, and one of the speakers I heard one time when my kids were young said that, who is going to pray for your children? And if you don't, who is going to care enough to spend every day, to spend those moments to really zero in and bring God into their lives, if not you as a mom? And so I took off that, I may not do everything else perfectly. I may not, do all the things. I'm not crafty like these two down here. I did my best, but always painful because I'm so painful at crafts. I'm painful at games, but then that's my husband. I think wherever you're weak, maybe you have other people in your family that fill in, so I was weak in those areas. My husband filled in some. We homeschooled for a couple years, and I was terrible at that. And we did all of the schools. But I knew that I could pray. And I do feel like prayer got me through all the stages and my kids turned out okay. So.
I would echo that. I'm a big reader. I mentioned that I worked for Barnes & Noble and worked in bookstores, so that was my passion. So from day one, I started reading to my children, and I have a theater background too, and I love theater, so I do voices. I kind of do voices in like Enchanted. If you know me at all, you probably heard a voice or two from me. So like when my kids were little, that's what got me through the day, was the various voices that I would do. In fact, by the time our kids were 3 and 5, Matt was like, I can't read these kids a book because they're yelling at me to do voices and they tell me I'm not good at it. So that's always been a passion of mine, is reading. But kind of the second layer, and maybe the more important layer for me, is when I discovered that through that I can teach my kids the gospel. And when I learned that, even my little kids, little kids ask big questions. They do. Big God questions. And you have a choice when your kids are little to go, with your answer, because they're hard to answer. Little kids, those big questions are hard to answer, right? And in terms that they can understand. And so I was like, well, how do I figure this out? And it was like a choice to figure out how to talk to my preschoolers about God in a way that was meaningful and effective and continual and joyful and conversational. And I tell you guys, we've been having an ongoing conversation that's continued to this day. So we talk about God every day. In our homeschool, we do devotionals together. We talk about God every day. And it's my delight. And that's been a huge joy for me.
All right, last question. Why did you choose to be a mentor mom, and what are you looking forward to this year?
Well, I was joking when we first came up here that Cora and I are like the young Padawans. We're like the junior mentor moms. I mean, I feel like kind of a little bit of a poser up here. Why did I choose to be a mentor mom? Like, I feel like I do have something to offer you guys in that, like, I'm just on the, like, right at the outside of where you guys are. Like, I'm standing outside the building looking in at where y'all are. Like, hey, I was just in there. And I have some things to say to you. Like, it's really fresh on my mind. It's really fresh. The things that you guys are going through and the memories are super fresh. Like, sometimes I get a big rock in my throat at the memories, because who was I talking to about the car? I was talking to Heather about the car, about a situation where driving in the car and a child had a fit, and I parked and I walked them the rest of the way home, like a quarter of a mile or half a mile. I was like, you know, walk it out. And we did. I mean, I'm sure some of you have been there, and I mean, I don't do that anymore. But when they were that small, I thought, this is the rest of my life. I'm going to be doing this forever. I'm going to be like breaking a sweat and walking children home to put something. And so I feel like I can be here to tell you it's not going to last forever, and it's going to be like, you know, like I want to encourage you, because I feel like I was just in here. So that's what I feel like I'm calling for.
When I joined what was at the time Moss, or Kelly Bradford asked me to, I was at a period in life where I was in a transitional time when I was not really, I was asking God what ministry type thing I could be involved in, and so it was an opportune time for her to ask me that question, because I was looking for something where I could maybe do something, and I was feeling also, because as you're going to find out, girls, as you grow, and what everyone's been into, it's saying to you is that it doesn't last forever, and there will be other stages and other times when you're going to wish there was a mom's group for middle school moms and a mom's group for high school moms, because every stage has its challenges and its amazing opportunities. And I was looking at a stage where all the things I normally did were not there for me anymore. And so God answered that by giving me this opportunity. And though I didn't feel like, as Julie said, you're a Padawan, and I don't know, I'm a Posty-wan, because I'm having trouble remembering. Oh, as you were telling your story about the kids, I could tell you so many stories where I nearly killed my children, you just would not believe. And it's amazing. God wanted them to live, and they're here today. And so, so I feel like, I don't know if I have anything to offer, but I have felt like God told me that I can show up. I can be here. I can tell you it's going to be okay. I can tell you that God sees you through every one of these things and does more abundantly than you can even ask or think for your children when you pray for them. And because otherwise my kids wouldn't have graduated high school. And so, yeah, I'm so thankful for that. And so I'm enjoying being here because you all encourage me. I'm at a point in life where I just love being around younger people. I love seeing the passion in your eyes and the joy you have for your children, and being here is probably more for me than for you. So I love you guys. And your babies.
Yeah, save some of, let us hold them sometimes. The timing was just right, I think. If I can remember to come on. Every Tuesday night, I'm like, oh, tomorrow is Lily Mom's. I about forgot. I can't remember.
Not the habit yet.
Yes, I'm not. So yeah, and I just want to encourage you guys, and because I've, I had babies at. For those of you who've had children later, at 28, at 34, at 38, and at 42. So I would be, at 42, I would be, with moms who, they're just having their first children, but our kids are the same age. So, and just all the different, stages and ways that I've changed in my mothering through it. I've gotten a lot of tries now, four times you get to go through, and just want to encourage you guys.
Yeah, I think I mentioned already that my main reason for being here. Well, actually, Erica, she texted me and I said, someone said that you might be good or to help, and you'd be willing to help out in Lily Moms. I'm like, whoa, okay. I wonder who that, I didn't even ask you who that was, but anyway, I thought, a little bit of selfishness is I just want to meet more people. I want to meet, because we're new here, and I want to meet some more people, and yes, I want to hold some babies. And I was like, after our last baby together, I was leaving and I was going, I didn't even hold any babies. And then I was FaceTiming with my daughter, and I said, I was at Living Moms, and she said, that's great, Mom. And I said, I didn't even hold any babies. She said, Mom, get on it. So, yeah, just really want to encourage, and like I said before, it's just I worked as a hospice and palliative care nurse for a number of years, and one of the things that I learned to tell my patients, tell my families, was just love on them. Love on them today, because we don't know if they're going to be here tomorrow, or 6 months, or a year down the road, so focus on it. Take the time, love them, and all those other things will come. All those practical things will come. So.
I just loved being a part of MOPS when I had little kids. It was such a special time, a wild time, but I am seeing now the seeds that were planted then grow in my teenager and 10-year-old. And so I just want to encourage y'all that it's kind of a long game, right? Parenting, it seems very immediate in that moment, but we're training them to be adults, which is kind of crazy to think when you've got a baby. But yeah, so I just want to be a voice of encouragement and enjoy this group.
I think I wanted an opportunity for ministry, and I just wanted to say that if I can help you or be available to you inside here or outside, not only in encouragement, but physical ways, helping with kids or meeting other needs, then I'm open. Please let me know.
So these are mentor moms. Yeah. All of these ladies up here really do have a heart for you guys, and so all of them, I'm sure, would be willing to give you their number, their email. You could box them. They really do want to serve you. So feel free to reach out to them at any point. And, like they said, ask questions. You can go to coffee, whatever it is that they can do. They are here for you. So that is them. We have, so we're going to do just a little bit of time of discussion. There will be some questions on the screen for you to talk with at your table. So